This is Amy Olson's current commemorative speech, and my audience is doing my recording for me. Space is big. You just won't believe how vastly, hugely, mind-boggling big it is. Douglas Adams wrote that in his novel, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And he wasn't wrong. Space is big. The known universe is roughly 46 billion light years across, and it's expanding. But why should we, as everyday normal people, care about this vast vacuum of space? What do you think the reaction was of everyday people in 1492 when Christopher Columbus came back to Europe and said, "Hey, you won't believe what I just found"? They probably didn't care either. They had bigger problems on their mind. Little did they know just how important that discovery would be for history and mankind. And just as Christopher Columbus before us, we are setting off into unknown territories, not knowing what our discoveries might bring. And in 1977, a probe the size of a Volkswagen was launched into space by NASA, and this probe was Voyager 1. Voyager 1's original mission was the exploration of Jupiter and Saturn, which it achieved far beyond original hopes. Voyager 1 took some of the closest and most iconic pictures of Jupiter and Saturn. Because of Voyager 1, we now know that Jupiter's moon Io has active volcano, and Europa is covered in a thick sheet of ice that is probably have oceans underneath of it. At Saturn, Voyager 1 was the first time we were able to confirm that Saturn's rings were made out of chunks of ice, caught in a dance with Saturn's gravitational pull. Perhaps the most well-known fact that Voyager 1 discovered was the nature of the famous Great Red Spot on Jupiter's surface. Many of you already know that this spot is a raging hurricane-like storm, but we didn't know this before 1979 when Voyager took some of the first moving images of the swirling spot. Now it seems like before the Voyager missions, we knew almost nothing about our own solar system. Think of all these discoveries that we made in essentially what is our galactic backyard, and now think of the vastness of space. How many discoveries are just waiting out there for us to find them? But before we can do that, we had to do something that was never done before in the history of mankind. We had to leave our own solar system. And in September 2013, Voyager 1 did just that, as the first man-made object left our heliosphere and flew out into the unknowns of interstellar space. The mission of Voyager 1 is something more than just scientific research and exploration. Voyager 1 gives us, as a civilization, something just a little bit more: perspective. With the Voyager space missions, we are more clearly able to understand our place in the solar system and in our own galaxy. When man landed on the moon and took some of the first pictures from Earth from such far distances, people marveled at how small their world looked, how limited. Now imagine when, for the last time, Voyager 1 turned its cameras homeward and took one last picture of our solar system. 3.7 billion miles from home, and Earth is just a tiny pixel, or as the picture became known, a pale blue dot. Now suddenly we are reduced to a dot, no bigger than a grain of sand. What does that make for us and our future if we are so much smaller than when we were 400 years ago when Galileo first pointed his telescope towards the stars? I believe that is up to us as a people to decide and shape. I'd like to end with a quote from the great astrophysicist Carl Sagan as he writes about Voyager 1 and the picture it took. Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you've ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the inhabitants of another corner. How frequent their misunderstandings. How eager they are to kill one another. How fervent their hatreds. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors so that they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the follies of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.